She hid under the bed to spy on her boyfriend, and what she heard left her frozen with fear. Relationships can be one of life's most rewarding experiences. They sustain us, nourish us, and help us grow as people. All that said, even the best relationships hit a few bumps along the way to happily ever after. Even with the most secure partnerships, it's natural for there to be just a tiny bit of doubt as to whether or not our chosen significant others truly love us. That's why it's not uncommon for people to test their loved ones just a little bit. One wife tried to play a trick on her husband to see how much he cared about her, except got so much more than she bargained for. What happened is something she never saw coming. After years of loyalty, one happily married wife decided to play a trick of sorts on her loving husband. Now, it's not an uncommon thing for a friend or lover to play a harmless little trick on someone they admire. But this wife had a reason for her prank. Her goal? She wanted to see if he would still be faithful to her, even after the passion between them had subsided. So she came up with the perfect plan. She waited for weeks to execute it, making sure that the entire thing would go off without a hitch. She wrote her husband a letter telling him that she wanted to leave him and that their relationship was over. She poured her heart into that letter. She wanted him to really feel it, so she carefully weighed and measured every single word she put on the page. Little did she know that it would backfire. She went on to say that the love between them died a long time ago and that this was truly the end of the road. She wrote her heart out, trying to make the letter as believable as possible. She reflected on the entire length of their marriage in good times and in bad. She laid the letter out on the bed and hid underneath it. There was a method to her madness. She'd not totally lost her mind. This woman had a plan now that the letter was written and waiting for her husband. It was time to move on to phase 2 of her prank. It might have seemed crazy on her part, but she crawled under the bed for one very good reason. She suspected that once her husband came home and found the letter, she'd be able to witness firsthand just how he really felt about her. She knew the letter would have an effect on him. She just didn't know what it would be. Still, she wanted him to show some sort of emotion to prove his love for her. The wife waited and waited. Finally, her husband came home. He found the letter, read it aloud, and then the wife heard the strangest thing. He made a phone call, laughing about how happy he was that his marriage was finally over. Hearing every laugh under the bed felt like a stab to her heart. The wife was crushed, and although she knew leaving the letter behind was a risk, she had no idea it would play out this way. She'd always assumed that the two of them had said in their wedding vows was something they'd both mean forever. She heard the door slam and knew her husband had left the house. That's when she crawled out from under the bed, ashamed and upset. She had no idea what to do next, and how to begin to pick up the pieces of her shattered marriage. That's when she saw a new letter. It was from her husband, presumably a goodbye note. She read the letter to herself, preparing for a storm of tears and awful feelings. While under the bed, she hadn't noticed that her husband had paused in his phone call to write anything down, so she figured it would be short. "Dear wife," it began. She realized she was so nervous and upset that it took her a couple minutes to get past these 2 words. But she knew she had to keep reading. "The next time you're going to try to trick me into proving my love, make sure your feet aren't sticking out from under the bed." Ha! There is a valuable lesson to be learned from this little joke. If you love your partner, don't test them unfairly. Lies, even in jest, do more harm than good.